Gentlemen,
hello.
Tally-ho.
Another week, another
Cheerio.
peek behind the veil, at the grail, and we're all pale.
And various other rhymes.
Yes. Was that a limerick or a haiku? Or neither? Or both? It was all of the above. What a show. What a fun show we have this week. I think it's one for the books, if the internet has books. And I'm going to talk
if there were such a thing as books anymore.
Yeah, what are those even? So I will talk about, I guess, just the tip.
Indeed you will. I'm going to talk about technology and how it is enhancing all of our lives.
That's right.
And then I'm going to bring it home with a discussion about the joys of having your own individuality.
Yeah.
And how rare that thing truly is in our world today.
And that we're basically against it. We don't think
we're against
it. We're against it. No, it's not worth the trouble.
Hey, guess what, you guys?
Oh, my God, so much to talk about.
The How to Heretic, this very show, has merch.
Merch,
there
motherfuckers.
Merch
online.
The Heretic is open.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
You can buy your T-shirts, your throw rugs, your various and sundry beer koozies, I'm going to guess. I'm not sure about
We went from having no merch to having merch.
That's right. We have so much merch.
We have tote bags. We got blankets. We got T-shirts. We got skateboards. We got stickers, magnets, buttons, coffee mugs. I am not kidding.
I'm getting a skateboard.
All
Do we have skateboards?
Yeah, we got skateboards.
Fucking hell.
All love and appreciation to our dear listener. Can I say his name?
Yes, and my husband Jesse, who put this together without our three lazy asses even asking him. It just appeared. So
I think we just were. He got sick of us talking about it, so he just did it.
He's magical, and so good things have happened, and now you can support our show, and you get a thing in return.
That's right.
Yeah, get out there, show some heretic pride. For God's sake, somebody's got to have some pride in something these days.
And then there's one more thing. This, after all, the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah.
This podcast, The How to Heretic, will now appear on YouTube.
That's right.
We have thus far, also because of laziness, not been on YouTube.
And, well, not just laziness. Also, we are old and out of touch.
That's right.
And
so a dear listener, Vern, that's his nom de guerre, gave us the great gift of segmenting our show. This is going to be a project over time, taking our show, separating the segments, and putting those on YouTube for your listening and visual pleasure, although it's just not as pretty to watch.
Yeah, the visual is just going to be one still image, so enjoy that.
A random still image taken from Pornhub that day. So this is a listener who's a really wonderful person who we met last year in Cincinnati at American Atheists, and this is a crazy labor of love this person has taken on to literally break out every single segment, which is now pushing 400, every single segment of the show, and just label it simply Noah's Ark or Genesis or whatever, so that you can enjoy them on your own, and it makes it super shareable to send to friends, to send to family, to send to enemies, to send to random strangers in towns you don't even know.
Yep.
So there you go.
So thanks for our listeners for doing the work this podcast should have always been doing.
Yes.
Our various listeners and husbands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, boy. And we'll keep reminding you of all this.
And if you want to do nice things for us, we will welcome that. Please write to us at howtoheretic.com.
And also send emails saying you are a patron if you are a patron. And for the patron-only segment, which you will hear with the sexy guitar solo that precedes it on Patreon. So if you want us to talk about a subject of your choosing, send it in, and we'll try to get to it.
Yes, indeed. Oh my God, can we do a show now?
Let's do a show. Uncle Dan.
Yeah. Hi. Yes.
We sit here face to face.
Face to face. That's how we like to roll.
Yep.
I hate your haze.
Uncle Mark is off in the ether, the northern Canadian ether.
So he says, and I have no evidence of that. I don't know where he is.
Yeah,
Beaver country.
Like the subject for today's segment, his existence is a mystery.
It's so true.
Let it remain so.
That was a pretty labored attempt to get to a place, wasn't it?
No, it's fine. If you hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed. Anyway, Uncle Mark, what the hell are you talking about?
That's the story of Doug's life. If you hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed. Well, let's leave Doug's sad life aside for a minute. We'll come back to that.
Please no.
Do we know, guys? It isn't exactly breaking news here on The Heretic that Catholicism is weird. Deeply, truly, profoundly weird. And it's always important to remember never to let our Catholic friends forget that. Oh, quick shout out to listener Julie for making me aware of today's subject. I appreciate it. This is a good one. So, unlike most traditions that celebrate the sacrament, they are the only ones who believe their wheat thin and wine turn into the flesh and blood of a man who died 2,000 years ago, and that never ceases not to be a fucked up way to spend a Sunday, no matter how you slice it. Catholicism is at base a cannibal cult. And how you can tell where your local cannibal cult might be located? Pro tip, look for a nearly naked Jew being tortured to death on the outside of a building. That's how you know you can eat and drink a piece of him inside. It's really just a menu with pictures on it, like the one at Denny's. So, and well, none of what I just said is really a joke because it's all true, or they think so anyway. Catholics now, and especially historically, are obsessed with death, martyrdom, specifically, and body parts, and the magic those parts and blood can do. In this way, they bear far more similarity to primitive tribal cannibalism and blood magic from parts of Africa, New Guinea, and South America than your average archbishop would be comfortable admitting. A person thought to have extraordinary powers in life leaves some behind in their hardware after death, so there is great power in the hair, bones, blood, and teeth of saints and holy men and women. Dan touched on some of these more gruesome and nauseating notions in his segment on medical cannibalism in episode 112.
I don't like the word touched on. That phrase bothers me.
You even touched my food during that one. So, and for those new to the idea of Catholic bread to flesh transubstantiation, rewind to episode 24 for a discussion about that. These alleged bits and bobs of saints so and so have another power, or rather, these corpses had a very real corporeal power in ages past to raise for the priests and abbots who kept them money. All across the unfortunate bits of the world under the brutal shadow of the Christian cross, churches hoping to attract pilgrims found themselves in possession of various femurs, incisors, phalanges, metatarsals, metacarpals, maxillas, and mandibles of the cast members of the stories of the Bible and the saints who died for refusing to deny the truths of those same stories. Many places did quite well off the pilgrim trade, since the local church authorities would also charge for the feeding and accommodation of the waves of pilgrims who came to see, I don't know, the rib of St. Peter, which somebody does have. One such monastery, the Abbey of Conques in France, hadn't a single molar of significance, and thus were missing out on the coins of the faithful. So, being the devious bastards the people of Conques are famous for being, they sent a monk of their own to infiltrate the orders of Agen, where the relics of Saint Foy were kept. This guy spent a decade working his way up to the keeper of the relics, and then he stole them.
Oh, my God.
Taking them back to Conques, where they quickly cashed in on this theft, known in Catholic circles as the act of simony, a very common crime in the days of big money relics. Named after Simon Magus, simony is the gravely evil act of selling church offices or sacred things.
I love it.
Who was Simon Magus? You're surely not asking. We meet this fellow in the 8th chapter of Acts, and if that historical fact sheet is to be believed, he was a magician in Samaria and became a follower of Jesus after he heard Philip the Apostle preach. He later saw Peter and John transfer the Holy Spirit to a man by the laying on of hands, and did covet that power, so he offered to pay them to give him it. Bad Simon Magus. Peter said...
I like to call him Simon Magoosh.
Simon Magoosh. Hey, Simon Magoosh. He was the Sicilian. So Peter said, "May your silver perish with you because you thought you could obtain God's gift with money." Boo, Simon Magus. So from then on, Simon Magus would have a very rare and very particular crime named after him forever, simony, not even once. So
I call it Simonizing.
Simonizing. And if the Catholic Church has taught us anything, money is bad. So,
right. They eschew that.
Money is bad, so give it to us and we'll take care of it for you.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
A people with a fancy country made out of golden statues say money is bad, Simon Magus. So, back to the care and feeding of money-making relics and why we should care. Remember, just a bit back when I said Catholic churches feature a human tasting menu on the street-facing side of their buildings in the form of a man dying horribly via a gruesome form of Roman capital punishment? Well, it turns out, fellas, there's just a wee bit of that sanctimonious but ultimately unlucky Jewish carpenter that is never on the menu when the Mass is delivered thousands of times a day all over the world. And that is because this tiny tip of the Christian Messiah was removed 8 days after his birth in accordance with Jewish tradition.
Oh.
Can you guess which bit?
That's always the bit that I was hoping I would get when I would take the Eucharist.
If you guessed foreskin, you're weird, but you're also right. Yes, on January the 1st, year 0, or year 1, I guess, the gold, frankincense, and myrrh-laden newborn was surprised by yet another gift, this one being having the tip of his little godhead sliced off, as described in Luke 2:21 for anyone demanding proof. But it is in the Apocrypha, where we find the Arabic infancy gospel, that we find a description of how somebody in the Bethlehem operating theater on the first day of the first year AD had the good sense to hang on to this little amputation. And I'm quoting this apocryphal bit of Bible now. And when the time of his circumcision was come, namely the 8th day on which the law commanded the child be circumcised, they circumcised him in a cave, which is nice. I guess manger to cave is kind of a lateral move. And the old Hebrew woman took the foreskin and preserved it in an alabaster box of old oil and spikenard. Quick note. Quick note. What the fuck is spikenard? No. For the last time, it is not an energy drink advertised on InfoWars, so please stop emailing me about that.
I think we could make it that if we need if we put in the effort.
Keep the Jews away.
It'll keep your frogs from going gay.
Also known as nard, something Doug covered somewhere, an aromatic glop much prized in what must have been a nightmarishly stenchy time in history. The seed pod of the spikenard plant is also on Pope. This is a real thing.
Please keep saying it. Keep saying the word.
The seed pod of the spikenard plant.
God damn it. The seed pod of the spikenard is my safe word. I have to change it now.
It's your safe sentence.
I'm going to start a band called Spikenard. Look for our album dropping next week.
Well, someone might have beat you because the seed pod of the spikenard plant is also on Pope Francis's papal coat of arms.
What?
So we'll come back to that. The story continues. This is again from the Apocrypha and of the Arabic, whatever the fuck it was. And she had a son who was a druggist. So to whom she said, "Take heed, thou sell not this alabaster box of spikenard ointment, although thou shouldst be offered 300 pence for it. Now this is the alabaster box," it continues, "which Mary the sinner procured and poured forth the ointment out of it upon the head and feet of our Lord Jesus Christ, and wiped it off with the hairs of her head." Yuck. Stinking, oily box with a baby's dick in it. Here, Jesus, let me rub it on your filthy bare feet with my hair, and surprise, the baby foreskin in it is yours. It's a little like finding out the fruit at the bottom of the yogurt is your tonsils. How does no one else see this as ghastly and weird? Fucking Catholics. So the dick in a box kicks around wherever for 800 years. And wouldn't you know it? It appeared on Christmas Day like a fine fat goose when the king of the Franks, Charlemagne, who, fun fact, was son of Pepin the Short, gave it as a gratuity to Pope Leo III for crowning him, Charlemagne, as Holy Roman Emperor.
My God, that's amazing.
And that rascal Charlemagne told Pope Leo that he had been gifted it by an angel when he prayed at the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. But it turns out he probably received it from the Byzantine Empress Irene. So he re-gifted a dick in a box to the Pope. Trash move or power move? History's jury is still out on that one. So Leo III may have placed it in a casket in a chapel in the Vatican, from which it was taken by a German guy, huge surprise, when he was part of a group of mutinous soldiers that got mad about the lack of pay and trashed Rome in 1527.
Or he just liked Spikenard.
Or he just liked baby dick. So he, the German guy, was captured in a little village called Calcutta, a few miles north of Rome, and the little church there took custody of the oily, moldy thing, and the pilgrims flocked to get a little magical backsplash from the supernatural tip of a demigod's dick. If you were a monastery in the magic baby dick business was good. But hold up. How do we know this little scab Leo III is the actual Jesus' turtleneck? Point the first. We can't and we don't. We can't prove the other 99.998% of Jesus even existed, making this even harder to do. Point the second. Pope Leo's little box of horrors wasn't the only Jesus foreskin shaking its moneymaker out there on the belief belt for pilgrims' pennies. It wasn't long before there were no less than 18 and as many as 21 Christ Crispy treats in holy sanctums all across Europe. This can mean only one of four things, uncles. Thing the first, all of them were real, which means in addition to walking on water and wine-making miracles, Jesus had at least 18 dicks. The implications of this realization are staggering, to say the least, but maybe that's why most portraits of Jesus are from the waist up. Thing the second.
Are you telling me that you don't think that that the Son of God can grow back a foreskin?
He's got Wolverine power.
He can totally do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, or they were all taken at once. I don't know. It was like a busy day for the Moyle. He was like, oh, Jesus, look at this. Thing the second. All of them were real. But rather than a hydra-headed demon penis, Jesus had one dick the size of an ottoman. Or, even more weirdly, a tiny regular baby peen, but a foreskin big enough to hold 50 pounds of potatoes, like a sacred Jewish kangaroo. Again, a staggering fact about Jesus we never discussed in Sunday school. Thing number the third. None were real, except the one Irene gave to Charlemagne, who gave it to Leo, who lost it to some pissed-off German who had it confiscated in Calcutta. The implications of this theorem are even more stupendous, as they seem to infer that at least 17 goodly Catholic bishops or abbots were lying about the provenance of their magical skin flaps in order to make money. Surely it can't be this.
It can't be.
Thing number the fourth. None of them were real, for fuck's sake, don't be an idiot. So, for some reason, the Vatican's consensus was the one in Calcutta was the real one. For some reason, pilgrims continued to pour into Calcutta over the centuries, making them a lot of dough. This is until the little nubbin that modern viewers said, and I quote, looked like a little red chickpea, in Calcutta became a bit of an embarrassment for the 20th century Vatican, eager to catch up to the saner sensibilities of the 14th century. That somehow the Vatican decided venerating a 2,000-year-old penis part was even too weird for their bizarre standards.
What?
And in 1957, ordered people to shut the fuck up about it on pain of the worst sort of excommunication. There's apparently levels. And this one is to be declared, and I quote, infamous and to be avoided, which I think is also a 1-star review of this podcast. So
I'm pretty sure that is also a like one of the levels of mean girling that can happen in high school.
Exactly, at the popular table. So in the early 80s, the parish priest of Calcutta removed it from the church and took it home and put it in his closet, from which, gasp, it was stolen in 1983.
Yes.
Oh, no.
The authorities blamed the usual suspects, hippies, neo-Nazis, and Satanists for the theft. But author David Farley, who has written extensively on this quite sensitive topic, feels pretty certain that the culprit was, and get ready to get your Dan Brown on here, boys, the Vatican itself. That's right. Farley gumshoed this very partial postpartum kidnapping and concluded the parish priest was in cahoots with the Holy See's 7th SEAL Team 6, snatched the embarrassing prepuce and took it back, thank you, and took it back to the Vatican vault where they hide all their old embarrassments. Such a big, big vault for such a tiny, tiny country. Is this why Pope Francis has a spikenard on his coat of arms? Wink. But before we close, I'd like to offer a far more probable, reasonable explanation for the location of late Mr. Christ's foreskin. 17th century Vatican librarian Leo, not that Leo, Alatius, never believed any of the relics were authentic because he wasn't a crazy person. In fact, he expounded on the true location of the Holy Prepuce in his not written by a crazy person treatise titled A Discussion of the Foreskin of Our Lord Jesus Christ, that like the rest of Jesus...
I need to start writing these things.
No.
The titles alone make it worth it.
that like the rest of Jesus, the foreskin ascended skyward and then kept going and going and going. And according to Alatius, the tiny shard of a tiny baby's peen can be seen even today as the rings of Saturn.
That's amazing.
I did not see that coming.
So, as far as your uncles are concerned, case closed. And may I just say, in conclusion, Catholics. That's the Holy Prepuce, heretics. The more you know.
God.
Now get out there and commit some simony. It's a victimless crime.
Oh, my goodness. That is amazing. And, yeah.
Yeah, and if you can access any body parts you might think are holy, please send them to the How to Heretic.
That's right.
Care of Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have quite a collection, actually. So before we talk any more about that, let's move on.
Jesus.